Go and turn to page 25 in your books. We'll start in just 1 second. Hey, appreciate everybody was able to make it out tonight. From last time, we had started on honoring one another, God's honor roll. I'd hoped to get much further than we did last time, but we got through the first three scriptures there. We're going to pick up with 1 Corinthians 12 here in just a second. Before we get into that, Michael, you care to lead us an opening prayer there, please? So if y'all remember last time, we talked in John 5. You don't need to turn there unless you want to, but just real quick review. John 5, verse 22 and 23. We were talking about who was honored there was the Son. Talking about how we honor the Son is how we honor the Father. They coexist together as one, so we can't disregard one with not doing the other, and we can't serve one without serving the other. And we all agreed that properly honoring them was following God's word, serving them, and acting as we should toward following the Scriptures. And then in Romans 12, we moved on to talking about our fellow disciples, and how we're supposed to be devoted to one another, putting them above ourselves. Showing our brotherly love. So the point of that one that we all agreed on was how we're supposed to put priority to our brother, put priority to our brother or sister, and that's how we give honor to them in how they're and treat them equally. It doesn't matter which brother and sister it is, showing honor to each as much as we can to everybody that is a brother and sister in Christ. And then the third one we got to was the spiritually weak. We had some different varying opinions on what that exactly meant. Whether that was a physical weakness. I think we're leaning toward it was more of a spiritual weakness in the body that some others need special attention sometimes to help them. Whether or not they're asking for it or not, we need to be looking and showing honor to them by showing care, showing that we need to reach out to help. There's definitely situations that Michael just mentioned in prayer just now, and situations in our church and around that are people are struggling, whether physically or spiritually, or whether it be young. We got multiple new converts that we've had in the last month, which is just awesome. All those are in some kind of potentially weak situation that need our honor by us helping them build them up, and giving them special attention so that they feel like they are part of us, that they are part of this brotherhood, part of this team. They need to feel valuable. They need to have a sense of worth. That's what we're there to give them. So anything else before we get moving into the next verse here in 1 Corinthians 12, verse 26 that we discussed last time?
spiritually weak, just stepping up to give them a little maybe break from their responsibilities if they needed a time to recharge, some special care. I mean, there's a thing I've seen online that kind of illustrates it. It's like three people going over a gap in like two mountains, I guess, and one's on one side, and they're all holding onto this log, and one's on one side holding the log up, and one's on the other side holding the log up, and then one is in the middle, and it says this is why we have each other. To just kind of, sometimes it's your turn to be a giver and provide that for somebody else, but sometimes it's your turn to be a receiver and receive that special care and attention from somebody else, and it all works together so that we're all unified and we're as powerful together as we can be, even when some members are weaker than others.
Very good. Really good point. Anything else? Move on. Okay, let's turn to 1 Corinthians 12. We left off in verse 24. Let's just, somebody go in and read and continue on to verse 25 and 26 of 1 Corinthians, please, of 1 Corinthians 12. Okay, so who are we directing our honor to in this verse? Okay, fellow Christians. Okay, and how are we to do that? Okay, the writer here, I really like what he says here. Whenever somebody's really struggling, and it's obvious, it's pretty obvious. We're pretty quick to reach out, to normally say something or give some kind of uplifting, edifying word. But how about when you see that person is really, a lot of stuff really good is going on in their life? I mean, just nothing bad, but there's, like in regards to like they're doing what they need to get to the top, like in the financial world. So I mean, like spiritually, they seem to be just really progressing. Their family's doing really good. Their kids are always behaving properly. It seems like when you see them, just everything just seems to be going their way. You find yourself saying, "Man, that's just awesome." I want to keep singing that. I want some more of that. Just go and talk to them about that. Just rejoicing with them about that. You find yourself saying, "Man, I just wish I was there," or kind of allowing yourself to being kind of a downer there, or being somebody who just really doesn't care at that point, or maybe a little lethargic to it because they don't really need my help, right? They don't really need anything from me. They're doing fine. I think we got to be real careful here in thinking that it's time to leave the good ones off over there on the side of the boat, and only person needs us those who are really, really struggling. I don't think that's any part of the point here. In fact, direct command here, which I think that's why it's purposely put in there, where we suffer with those who suffer. But if one member is honored, all the members need to rejoice with that. And I don't think that is just when somebody becomes baptized or comes forward. I think we do a great job of that. But when things are going great with each other, man, we should just be celebrating that with each other, and just making even all the better with enjoying that with each other, and just doing what we can to make that person even better than they already are at that time. So what do y'all think about that verse? What else do y'all have for that? Anything else? Okay, and what we didn't hit on, like I said, that I really don't. I feel like our church and we can always do better, but I feel like we're just excellent with those who have spiritual or physical issues going on. But obviously, there's always more we can do in that area. I think we do a great job of that, but that's something we need to think of as well. It's just a self-reflection. How much does it hurt you, when somebody's hurting? If it doesn't affect you at all, how close are you to that person? If you have no effect for what Michael just prayed for a second ago, for some of those who are really struggling right now, for them or their families, that what was kind of an afterthought, maybe a little self-reflection needed on how close am I to that person, or how close am I to my brethren? Do I never care when they read the announcements on what's going on with people? We're not going to be able to suffer with each other if we don't really have any kind of love or care for one another. That's not the kind of honor God's wanting us to show. It's not supposed to be the ones we seem to be closest with in the church. We're supposed to strive to get that way with all of our brethren. I didn't want to hit on that too much. I think we do that great job of that here. But that's something we all need to strive to do better at as well. Let's go over to Ephesians chapter 6. We won't hit on this one a lot. Once again, I think the church does a great job of this. But I do think it's an interesting aspect, and this is speaking more to the adult side of this. So Ephesians chapter 6, verse 2 and 3, whoever has that.
Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise, that it may be well with you, and that you may live long on the earth.
Okay, so who are we honoring here, Mickey?
Our parents, our father and our mother.
Okay, how do we do that? And since we're talking to everybody post the age, I believe in this class, of 18 years old, and post 21 in college, how do you do that right now? Excellent. I know, I'm letting them go. What's one thing parents have more of as you continue to get older? What do they continue to gain? Knowledge. You continue to gain knowledge. Experience. Okay. No matter how much wisdom you gain, they're more than likely guaranteed to have at least 18 to 20 plus years of more of it than you do, especially if you're blessed enough to have a parent that has been a Christian for that many years longer than you. The amount of honor we show and respect for that wisdom, thinking, I'm kind of, I'm at that parent age now, where I'm not saying me, I'm saying as a group, if you're getting to that point in age where you're thinking, I've got to, I'm at the point where I got multiple kids, and I remember now when my parents started teaching me all these biblical things and everything, and I'm there, and I don't really need guidance anymore from them. I'm there. That's just really not the case. There's a reason God put qualifications in there for elders, and of a certain. It takes a little while to get there to that point. There's a reason we don't have a lot of really young, dads in that position. Maybe churches haven't felt that they're at the age to be able to allow them to do that. They're not experienced enough to do that. With age comes that wisdom, comes that experience, comes that knowledge. That deserves respect. That deserves questions, constant questions, not thinking you know more than your parents, because when you're growing up, a lot of kids think they know more than their parents. That should be something we get better and better at. Understand we need to continue to go with them, no matter what age we are. I remember when I was, I don't know if y'all remember, about a few years ago, I was working for accounting. I was a controller, accounting job in Knoxville, Tennessee. A company called Care 24/7. And at the time, it was still a really hard job to do. I was traveling you know, 2-hour commute, 3 days a week, and really liked the job. It was getting kind of hard. Elsie had just been born for about the first year of her life, and it was just I didn't get to, you know, see her as much as I wanted to for a few days of the week, and so a really good man from here, he's sitting in the middle row right there in front of me, Sam, decided to approach me one day and told me there was a job opening at the health department for the head over the finance, and I had a really hard decision to do because I did like my other job. So one of the first things I did after I just talked about it with Morgan is I went straight to Dad. I don't know if you remember that, Mom. I went straight to Dad because he'd been he'd taken multiple jobs over the years. He really understood how all that worked. He understood those kind of decisions. I really needed guidance on that. He gave me some really good advice. I don't know if I'd made the exact decision that I made without his advice. He had more years. He had more experience. He had more knowledge. There's just so much we can gain from that respect and knowledge from our parents. That never stops. I don't think until death, of course, but that just doesn't stop. So, anything else on that before we move on? I didn't want to hit a lot on that. I know that's. I know there's some other good ones we need to get to, but I thought that was worth talking about for a second. Very good. They see you kind of giving lack of respect to their grandparents. I mean, why are you telling them to give that respect if they don't really see it with how you're acting with your parents? So that's a very, very good point. What else? Mickey, you want to say something?
The comment that Miss Wilson on the Ten Commandments, everybody's talking about it, but that comment that your days may be long. So help me understand. How me honoring my parents would make my days longer.
I always took that to mean, once again, we're going back to the wisdom and knowledge here. You know, you can gain things that help you avoid, whether that's spiritual traps or physical traps or financial traps, like I was just talking about a second ago, along the way. If you look for the guidance of not just your parents, but elders or elderly or whatever, there's just a lot of pitfalls and a lot of things you can learn to help avoid a lot of problems that can extend your days. You know, that's why I always took that. I could be interpreting it correctly, but if anybody else has anything on that, that's what I always took that to mean.
One thing that I thought was very important and seems to them is they get older and not always expecting, you know, as my mom gets older, not always expecting her to take on the responsibility of like hosting holidays or, you know, whatever it may be, but just caring for her, seeing what she needs. It's kind of a flip flop from, you know, you grow up and your parents take care of you, but even in some cultures, like in the Asian cultures, when you reach a certain age, you take your parents in to live with you and you provide for them. You pay their bills, or even if they don't live with you, if they live alone, you pay their bills. They don't have any expenses that the children take over. That as a thank you, out of gratitude for, we're not, I don't think they do that. Mickey is so excited. But just a way to show gratitude for what they've provided you and what they've given you is maybe just kind of stepping up into taking some responsibility if they have health needs or, you know, other needs, to just be willing to be grown up and honor them by returning everything they've done for you.
Yeah, very good. We didn't talk about that much. Talk about respect. We didn't talk about care, but definitely the roles start reversing a little bit as your parents get older and need that help. They need different types of care, and that's something to show that respect. We are expected to do. When it says care for our elderly brethren, when God's referring to those things, is we're going to get to the widows. Hopefully, if we get to that, the widows later. There's a reason. There's a certain age. There's certain requirements, and there's certain things there. There's some special care that we're supposed to have as we are still of good age, but our parents are getting a little older. That's definitely a respect involved in that. Yes, sir.
Deuteronomy 6. I mean, there's more than just honoring the position.
Absolutely.
It's the teaching and guidance and the example and I mean, there's a promise. Not necessarily the little long life, but eternal life. I think it's just contextual. That verse 2 is wonderful, for sure, physically. But the 1 through 3 and then Exodus and Deuteronomy, to me, it just kind of makes the whole package there. It's adding deeper level of honor.
Absolutely. Very good. Anything else? Okay. Very good. Let's roll over to 1 Timothy chapter 1. This will be very similar to 1 Corinthians 12 we just read a second ago. But whoever has chapter 1 and verse 17, please read that for me. 1 Timothy 1:17. Okay. It's pretty simple. Who are we honoring here? God our King. Okay. We talked about ways last time how we can honor God. So we're not going to beat that one. Do y'all have anything different with this one than you had in 1 Corinthians 12 when we're talking about honoring Christ? Or in John 5. You read that, Roger? Very, very good. When I took that was kind of the difference here. The last one more referred to, the honor in comparison to the Son and the Father, how you kind of obey the one without the other. This one, I think there's a reason that they mentioned this one, talking about him being the King, immortal, talking about the qualities here, invisible, the only God, be honor and glory. This is really just acknowledging and understanding and being thankful and realizing that your God is awesome. I mean, it is a respect that you give, and be reflective, like I said, to yourself. How often do you say these repeated things in your prayer? I know we ask for different things, and none of them are wrong. It's just how often do you just have a prayer when it's just listing off God's qualities and thanking Him for being like this? Okay, we know there's prayers like this. David flung them. Whether it be in Psalms or wherever, he was full of them, of just praise. I know I don't give enough of those prayers. I try to always mention them in my prayers, but definitely don't give enough of just prayers and just giving God just praise. Talk about showing Him honor. Telling he knows He's the King. He knows He's got all His attributes. He knows what He can do and what He gives us and what He has blessed us with. But that don't mean we're not showing Him honor by not, or we can't show Him honor by not saying those things to Him. And that just allows that connection between us and God to be even more special. So very good, right? That's what I had. Does anybody have anything else on that? That was the main difference I had between the two. Very good. Yeah, where you read that, Donna? It sounds like a book that needs to be read. A commentary. Okay. Very good. Anything else? Okay, I wanted to get to this one. Let's go to 1 Timothy chapter 5. I really wanted to get this one because I really wanted thoughts on this one because I always struggle with this passage here. So let's read 1 Timothy chapter 5 and let's see, it's verse 3, but I want to read through verse 10. Whoever's got that.
Honor widows that are widows indeed. But if any widow have children or nephews, let them learn first to show piety at home, to requite their parents, for that is good and acceptable before God. Now she that is a widow indeed and desolate, trust in God, and continues in supplication and prayer night and day. She that liveth in pleasure is dead while she lives. These things give a charge, that they may be blameless. But if any provide not for his own, and especially for those of his own house, he hath denied the faith and is worse than an infidel. Let not a widow be taken into the number under 80 years old, having been the wife of one man, well reported of in good works. For she hath brought up children, she hath lodged strangers, she hath washed the saints' feet, she hath relieved the afflicted, she hath diligently followed every good work.
Man, I could read that one again. I mean, that's some good stuff. That's some pretty strict qualifications there. I mean that's almost elder kind of qualifications there. I mean, have y'all ever read that thing in that? When I reread that again, I was like, man, I need to turn over the elder chapter and start comparing because this is some really strict stuff here. This is a special kind of woman here. So, it's pretty obvious here. Who's the audience? So who's the who? Who's getting honored here? Okay. Specifically, what kind of widows? Okay. And what are just, before we get into kind of the how, what are some things that make them special here? We don't have to go through all of them, but what are some really things that stand out to you, make them very much this type of widow? Okay. That's a good point, okay? It did not say you're just a widow, okay? As Roger said, no family, okay? Very good. Anything else?
Trust in God, continues in prayer and supplication day and night.
Okay, very good. How you like her saying she's washed the saints' feet? Is that what you said? Wash the saints' feet? I don't know if everybody had that translate. That's what I had. We can take that a lot of ways. I think we're seeing an attitude right there. Obviously, if we see a widow not checking the box of pretty sure she never washed the saints' feet. I don't think that's the qualifier. I think we're seeing a God showing an attitude there. How much is she giving to the saints? How much is she giving to her fellow brethren, brothers and sisters in Christ? So if she's brought up children, have a reputation for good works, which means among not just us, but the community and those around her, that she carried the name Christ. Her reputation is of Christ. And if she's assisted those in distress. We talked about age a second ago. How old did it say they have to be? Over 60. Sam was getting some old school kind of numbers. What did you say, 3 score?
3 score years old.
6, 3, so 60 years old. Anybody, I tried to look, but I couldn't exactly, and there may not be a connection here whatsoever, but I couldn't find a lot of commentary on why that might be, why that, and when it comes to numbers, I'm always looking for a reason. There's a specific number. Of course, God doesn't specifically say here why it's that number. Anybody have any thoughts on why 60? It's kind of random.
Down in verse 11, it talks about younger widows, and they may have a desire to remarry later.
Okay.
And then in other, in verse 14, let the younger widows marry their children, manage their households. And so, if they were supported by the church and then remarried, having a family could cause problems. So I think maybe just not, because he talks about they learn to be busybodies when they're younger, and so he encourages them to start again when they're young and be busy and work for the Lord.
Very good. Okay.
What does that mean at the phrase about if they have children or grandchildren, are we to teach them to give back to their parents? Because that's a good thing?
You talking about verse 10?
Yes.
Where it says if she...
No. 4.
4. So what's your question there, Carol?
Are we to teach the children of this widow or the grandchildren their responsibility to give back to their parents? Does that tie into verse 8 too? Not taking care of responsibility of children, just providing for their own. Yeah, because that would be their commitment before they go to the church. You have to raise children. And Samuel and nephews, I thought that had the same. And mine says grandchildren.
Okay, so when I think of verse 4, okay, so does that need to be like a Lois and Eunice kind of situation? Okay, where we know Timothy was practicing piety before those two. Does she have a hand, whether through legacy or whether through current teaching or influence, that it's been? I guess it's a good question, right? If you seem to have a godly woman, but every child and family under her is fallen apart, do you think they qualify here? All of her kids, all of her grandkids, they've all fallen away. There's no religious situation there. There's no spiritual connection with God. But and she's done everything she can to do to help them. Is that what you think we're talking about in verse 4 here? We got a problem there? Because remember, this isn't a heaven or hell question. Okay, this isn't, or are they in line with God question. This is a specific widow question. Just a thought. It's a tough question, Carol. That's something we'd have to really study if we had that problem. But that's what I was kind of. Correct. But as Carol and they were pointing out, it is even flowing to the grandchildren here. So it's almost talking about like if it went to your children, and then just so happened maybe some of those children of your child to turn, had no offering to the Lord or gave no care for the Lord, what's the situation there? Okay, so we're talking about these great qualities now. The widow, I know we beat around that one pretty good. We haven't got to the how yet. So how are we going to take care of these widows, these special widows from verse 3 to 10? Didn't really get into that right here, so it's some more digging here. Very good. Have that one too.
And here are the parameters, Timothy, where that makes sense. And so that, I think that kind of mindset in that whole conversation, hey, we got to lean on the children and the grandchildren, verse 3, 4, the church wouldn't be burdened by the, to make sure that we're taking care of the ones who are, what's the term, alone, whatever verse that is. Left all alone, verse 5.
Right. Yep.
So anyway, just that context I think is important.
Are we
Very
looking
good.
at the physical? Are we looking at their physical needs and their spiritual needs? What if their family are non-believers, but the widow is?
Yeah, I think that's what we were discussing a second ago. Do remember that this is also talking about, if Roger brought first point, that before we even got going here, that she doesn't really have a lot of family that's able to take care of her if she's in this situation. She needs something else. That's why they get on, as Michael said, a special list. They kind of like get on their actual honor roll here of a list to have a special needs taken care of. They need help from us.
Acts 6, they're being fed every day. That's pretty clear. So I'm not saying this is exactly the same situation, but there was daily distribution of food in Acts 6. And so, what role the church has in 1 Timothy 5 is maybe very similar. These ladies on this list are being taken care of by the church in a real physical way. Now, that doesn't mean there's not spiritual responsibilities also, but I have a hard time separating that from physical just based on that reading.
In the commentary I read, it was leaning more toward physical as well, and I was leaning toward that way anyway because, once again, you're not putting them off in the corner here like they don't need spiritual help, but we just read 3 through 10 of a woman that I need to aspire to be like one day with these kind of qualities. It's not that they don't need spiritual help, but they are in a good relationship with God or in a good spiritual state if they have met all these qualifications, which is why they don't think that's the main focus here of this chapter. It's like Michael said, more focusing on making sure they're taken care of, that they're able to be provided for. It's financially or food or they don't have anybody to help take care of them. So I agree there.
That's the line here. Is that right? So verse 1, or chapter 1, verse 1 says the church of Thessalonica. Actually, where did you get it? Sorry, I missed it.
I think he's in Acts.
In Acts.
1 Timothy 1,
Yeah,
area.
yeah, remain on Ephesus, yeah.
And all kinds of other inclusions as well in most places. All the right things. Because this section applies to this. And that's my question.
Yes, I think that's what we're saying, yes, yes.
Like on verse 9, I've got rope taken into the number to be enrolled. That is a permanent, continuing thing. That's not take place just a one-time thing. That's for taking care of continually.
Right.
And kind of verse 16, kind of, to me, it makes it more difficult because we don't think that the church is going to be burdened. But I think that's burdened with having to take care of this physical need that's out there. So,
Very good.
If it was in this culture, like it was in the Old Testament, where if a woman was left alone without family, that she was, I mean, it was, they were rejected by everyone. So, like with Ruth and Naomi, for example, you can see how Ruth had to take special steps to go about doing what she did because they were basically treated as rejects or second-class citizens if they didn't have a husband or a son or somebody to take care of them. So I wonder if this culture was similar, if they would have just been.
Probably just a desolated, desolate.
I think it said desolate, just like completely alone, and they would have been just the poorest of the poor and not had any way, like they couldn't work, they couldn't, any way to provide for themselves.
Verse 13 talks about being in the house. 20, 17 says, elder ought to see how the women live. Be in other houses.
This truly widow or widow indeed, don't think of that as a title. That's not a role. That's not a, that's not a designation or a special title. It's just eligible for the list. I think, I don't know that's a capital W, capital I, but it's just, these are the ladies that need to be taken care of. Anyway, I just don't, that came across on this too.
It did. I was just, when I was highlighting, I can't help but read the passage over and over again and not, I mean, I literally was comparing, like, the deacons and elders chapters here when I was comparing this, because I never did when I read this before. And I was just like, this is, and I'm not trying to put a title on them like that. I just call them, this is a good Christian. This is a really good Christian.
Not part of the church. Somebody that has qualifications or characteristics like that, who's done this their whole life, surely somebody will step up, return the favor. I think that seems to be the point. Whether it's family or verse 16, it's any man or woman, an individual, just to not put that burden on the church. But in certain situations, there may be some that actually meet this original one, and that's where the church has a responsibility to do that. That would be a big burden for the church to do this. Like in Acts 6, there's church's main responsibility is not to push through the people's mouths, the gospel people's hearts. So it's, but there's still a need. Attention for that.
And that's a good thought, Sam. Maybe that's a tough decision for the elders, because how do you make the judgment call finally on if we know we have we're all blessed. I mean, everybody in this country is blessed, but if you know you have a very blessed church, we're all very blessed, and we feel like we have people to take care of those individual needs. When does the elders make the determination that they need to make this list? When we definitely have individuals who can assist.
So we're going to have that hindsight.
Correct.
At that age, and I really need the help. I'm not living this way. That's not relevant to the church. For the individual, for sure.
Very good. I'm not mentioning. I'm not going to mention any names here. But Mickey, I think we've had this situation, have we not? At least once before here. Might have been a while ago. It seems like, but it seemed like that happened for a small period of time. Well, I told you I didn't want to mention. I don't have a name, even if I did. But at the, I'm gonna say when Dad was there, he had a situation where that was the case. I remember. Well, I was curious because he did. I was thinking of maybe picking his brain, asking him how that decision was kind of done. But tough one.
I think, culture's different. There's a lot of places that aren't as blessed as we are. Some very poor cultures. It's not being a much bigger issue. But I'll also say that, I don't read that as the church should see this as like, if that widow meets these qualifications, I think it's responsibility at that point. Don't let this lady go. Don't let this lady go unhelped. And there's plenty of deacons around here that can help. In our culture, we can do this in a lot of different ways. I think it's a responsibility at that point.
I agree.
So is it Timothy's role to teach these people this area? Absolutely. Okay. That was my thing. These are Greek people. They probably never heard of it. Honor Father and whatever. Thank you. Timothy's.
Very good. Very good. We will get. I do have one or two more that I want to finish in this lesson. We are going to jump into lesson 7. So going to do lesson 7, but there's a couple more I want to hit real quick in the first of the next class. But go ahead and move on to lesson 7.